Good evening all. On behalf of the Bombay Bar Association, I welcome all in today's function. I vividly remember several years ago I had a matter before my Lord Justice Kathawala, that of a flat purchaser in a redevelopment project. I was told that circulation has been granted and I had to prepare a detailed list of dates. When the matter was listed, in the morning I received a call to say that the moment notice was sent that the matter was listed before His Lordship, the defendant called the plaintiff, offered fair settlement, and the matter was worked out. I had no reason to appear. This was because parties, litigants and advocates knew that when we appeared in Justice Kathawala's court, not only judicial orders would be passed, but justice would be delivered. I can recount numerous occasions when our chest would swell with pride when we were in Justice Kathawala's court, where wrongdoers were punished and dignity of righteous litigants was upheld. As juniors, we learnt a lot from His Lordship. We got chastened as well, but that was deservingly so. These are lessons which we will carry for a long time to come, and it will keep us in good stead. Courtroom number 20, after 23rd March, won't be the same. May I request our President, Mr. Thakkar, to address our members and welcome Justice Kathawala.
The Honorable Mr. Justice Shahrukh Kathawala, Dr. Birendra Saraf, Vice President, Bombay Bar Association, Mr. Vishal Kanade, Secretary of Bombay Bar Association, members of the Standing Committee of Bombay Bar Association, past presidents of Bombay Bar Association, senior advocates, and all other members of Bombay Bar Association, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow is the last day of marathon, and the sole runner and winner will be saying goodbye to that chair in courtroom number 20 and chamber number 43 forever. We are here today to say goodbye to him and wish him all the best in his third innings. Justice Kathawala, a self-made lawyer, was born on 24th March 60. He graduated from Wilson College and completed law from Government Law College. On 30th September, he was enrolled on the rolls of Bar Council of Maharashtra and Goa. He practiced on original and appellate side of our High Court. He joined chambers of Mr. Rafiq Dada, our past president. He became member of our association in 1986. He amassed a very large practice in civil, constitutional, company and arbitration matters, amongst others. He appeared in Supreme Court, several High Courts, District Court, tribunals. He sacrificed large practice and answering call of duty, decided to become High Court judge. He was sworn in as an additional judge on 18 July 2008 and he was confirmed as a permanent judge on 15 July 2011. As a lawyer also, he was workaholic, which trait he continued to exhibit as a judge also. From a very reliable source, I can share with you that one day as a lawyer he worked whole night by hiring a room at Taj. He slept in wee hours in the morning for about 3 hours and was back on his feet in court the next day. His second innings of his career in law began as a judge of this honorable court. Sir, as a judge, you have endeared yourself to the members of the bar with your practical approach, and a large gathering today is enough testimony of your popularity. You showed a very keen sense and desire to do justice in the matters. You were therefore not stickler about procedure. You were perceived as a relief-giving judge. You had gathered blessings of so many elderly parents who were victims of their ungrateful progeny. You also got grateful thanks from various tenants of rehab buildings and flat purchasers who were deprived of property and the rent by unscrupulous builders and developers for years. You came in aid of several litigants, including farmers, pensioners, and those who sought justice, and you, having found justness of their cause, made judicial intervention to provide relief. You resolved several family matters and commercial disputes by encouraging the parties, their advocates, to resolve today instead of waiting for years to come. All those hearings before regular court commenced and after court time was over yielded wonderful results and a win-win situation for the litigating parties. All those who resolved their matters before you must be thanking you from bottom of their heart. In family court matters where there were children involved, you would win their hearts and make them comfortable by offering them goodies. But there are class of bureaucrats, secretaries, collectors, deputy collectors, mamlatdars and tehsildars, talatis, some police officers, and those unscrupulous builders who may be heaving a sigh of relief today that you are hanging your boots. But they do not realize that this is Bombay High Court, and I am sure some other judge will take it up from where you have left. You being a workaholic as a judge is well known. You are conducting hearings way beyond court hours, and on one occasion till 3 in the morning is well documented and noticed not only by media but also by Indian Parliament. You have not taken leave for a single day except while you were forced to take leave due to COVID. And I can tell you, the Chief Justice in our administrative meeting mentioned this, that he appreciated the enthusiasm shown by Justice Kathawala, but he had to say no because that would affect the staff who would be attending and they would require to be isolated. That's the reason why, otherwise he would have taken matters during that period also. Though you were not required to sit on vacation assignments, you continue to sit on vacation assignments even in spite of your seniority. But I want to request my fellow members not to insist for a hearing at 8 in the morning or after 6 in the evening in his third innings as an arbitrator. Knowing him, he will not say no, but we should let him have some me time for himself. Sir Andre Guillaume, a Nobel Prize winner in 2000, justified being a workaholic. And probably you would repeat it for us. And I quote, "Some people would call me workaholic. I don't consider this time. I just love my work so much as it is my real hobby. Okay, and yet, getting some play during working hours for which you are paid is the best job I can recommend for anyone around," unquote. You all through your life, except for wearing black coat and black robe, have been wearing only white color. I am told you made one exception when you put on a colored dress for wedding of a friend to whom you had promised that you will make an exception. But I can say with confidence that you are ending your judicial career with spotless record like your white spotless attire. I also want to share with all of you something to understand, appreciate, and get inspired by the persona of the gentleman to whom we are saying goodbye today. It is selfless charities made by him as a lawyer and also as a judge. Sir, you have continued to help and aid all those needy persons who wanted aid or help. You regularly organized for them trips to Udvada. Your compassion shall always be cherished, not only by those benefactors, but by all those who have come in contact with you. This benevolence was extended by you to the staff of the High Court, including your own staff. I am told that you provided handsome amount for the medical treatment of the husband of a personal secretary of another judge. Unfortunately, he passed away the next day, but you provided for the education of her children. We bow down to your caring nature. Your order for costs in several matters due to erring litigants benefited several charities. Our members will be surprised to know that his staff has calculated the total amount of costs awarded and given to the charities. It comes to a staggering amount of 8 to 10 crores of rupees. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. 34 crores. Your secretary gave me this figure yesterday, but I stand corrected. Sir, your commitment to work is unmatched. During 26/7 deluge in Mumbai a few years ago, none of the judges or staff could make it to the court, but you made it. Your chopdas were also not there to open your chambers. Your colleagues shared that you were sitting on the bench outside your chambers. Hats off to you, sir. Whenever your courts continued till late evenings and during rainy seasons, you took care of your staff by providing transport for them to reach home safely. Sir, your retirement. You would say retire the word retirement from my vocabulary. Look it up in dictionary. It means to withdraw or retreat. Words can shape reality. And it is time for this one to go. Doesn't Renaissance or graduation or transition better describe past career life? True. So I would say that your second innings will get over tomorrow and the third innings will begin from your birthday day after. For you, the end of the second innings is not the end of the road, but it is beginning of the open highway. On behalf of myself and all those present here, as well as members of the Bombay Bar Association, I wish you a wonderful, happy and healthy third innings. I hope that as promised by you, you will come one day here to address and guide our members. Lastly, I am told your only hobby is to listen old Bollywood songs. And Mukesh is your favorite singer. Your colleagues on the bench were regaled by the treat of the programs of Bollywood songs arranged by you annually. I would end, therefore, by using the words from a famous Mukesh song to express our feelings after a while when one would say that, जाने कहाँ गए वो दिन जब काथावाला हाई कोर्ट के जज थे. Sir, we will miss you. All the very best.
Thank you, Mr. Thakkar. May I request Ms. Kaina Zirani, our member, to present a floral tribute to welcome Justice Kathawala in our midst. May I request His Lordship to address our members? We are very keenly waiting.
President of the Bombay Bar Association, office bearers of the association, and my dear friends. It gives me immense pleasure to be in this Bombay Bar Association room after a period of 14 years. At the outset, I thank you all for organizing this farewell function for me and attending in large numbers. Whilst I was studying in the Government Law College, one of the professors advised me to join a law firm and start my training if I seriously wanted to pursue my career in law. He must have seen me sitting in the canteen of the Government Law College. I thereafter joined a law firm, and on my first day of training, I came to the library along with my senior. The first lawyer I was introduced to was Shavak's Wazifdar, as he then was. After introducing me to other lawyers, my senior told me that we have to leave for Company Law Board at Ballot Pier. After we came out from the library, the counsel, who was to argue the matter before the CLB, told me to go and get the book which he had left at the table where he was sitting and where I was introduced to him. When I went inside, picked up a book which was lying on the table on which I had seen him working when I was introduced to him, and we immediately left for the CLB. Being a resident of western suburbs, I was not acquainted with the roads around the fountain area. After we reached the CLB and were waiting for our matter to be called out, the counsel asked for the book, which he had asked me to get from the table where he was working. After he opened the book, he was very angry at me because the book turned out to be a labor journal. However, my senior told me to go back to the High Court library and look for the book, which was a company journal, the particulars of which were not known to anyone. I don't think I had more than a rupee or two in my pocket. But my senior, without me asking for any money, gave me a 10-rupee note to go to the High Court and return by taxi. This was in 1983. Since I did not know the way back to the High Court, before sitting in the taxi, I first confirmed with the taxi driver whether he knew the way to the High Court. And only after he confirmed did I sit in the taxi. After reaching the High Court library, I again went to the table from where I had picked up the Labor Law Journal and was shocked to see that by now there were 10 books on the table. A lady lawyer who was also Justice Dada's junior, Mr. Dada's junior, whom I had seen on 2-3 occasions in the Government Law College and who was now practicing law, perhaps saw the fear and tension on my face. She came up to me and asked me whether I needed help. I told her my problem and she started looking up the books lying on the table. And since one of the books was a company journal, she told me that this could be the book required by the counsel. Hurriedly, I took the book, again confirmed with the taxi driver if he knew the way to NTC House at Ballot Pier. After his response to the above in the affirmative, I sat in the taxi with all weird thoughts passing through my mind, more particularly that this would be the first and the last day of my work at the said firm. Luckily, by the time I reached the CLB, our matter was not called out, and the book turned out to be the correct book. After the matter, I apologized to my senior for the goof-up, who surprisingly consoled me by saying that these things do happen, and I should not get stressed because of that. On the next day, I accompanied the managing clerk to the High Court. We went to courtroom number 6, where Justice Sujata Manohar was hearing ad interim applications. The managing clerk told me that she was hearing ex parte applications. I observed that a completely silver-haired advocate was appearing in every alternate matter for well-known solicitor firms, but the judge would not grant him any reliefs. Whilst returning to the firm, I asked 2 questions to the managing clerk. Who was the lawyer who was appearing on behalf of these well-known firms but was not getting any reliefs in the matters? And if the hearings were termed ex parte, why was the judge asking the lawyers whether notice was given in the matters? The managing clerk responded by saying that the silver-haired lawyer who was appearing in every alternate matter for well-known firms is one of the best lawyers available at the bar, and his name is Mr. J.I. Mehta. He told me that you cannot judge the competence of any lawyer on the basis of him getting the reliefs or not. He also told me that in a big firm, no one will take interest in you unless you take interest in the matters. If not, you will learn nothing and just cheat yourself by carrying an impression that you are attached to a very big firm. These words of the managing clerk still rings in my ears, and even after 40 years, I never fail to repeat the same to junior lawyers as well as interns. Thereafter, I worked in the said firm, doing every possible work assigned to me. be it preparation of briefs, paginating them, attending the court office to remove office objections, opening the drawers of few of the associates, and at times slipping a ₹50 note inside for getting the objections removed and the proceedings numbered. On a few occasions, there was a shortage of peons due to public holidays. I have also gone to the residence of councils to deliver briefs. Though sometimes I felt that my job was that of a glorified peon, I not only enjoyed the same, but later realized that no one could fool me qua the procedure followed in the High Court departments. 2 cups of tea in a day and a few biscuits on a few occasions was my entitlement in the law firm. However, since I was attached to a partner attending to litigation, I would almost for the entire day be in the court premises, and when I would return to office and ask Peon Saidev for a cup of tea, he would inform me that the milk is over. There was a bhatt on the same floor who charged 70 paisa for a cup of tea, which I couldn't afford. I worked in the law firm approximately for 3 years, and after receiving my sanad, I joined the chambers of R.A. Dada, who is present in our midst today. Within 1 week of joining him, that is in October 85, Sri Suresh Gupte, later Mr. Justice Suresh Gupte, joined the chamber of Sri Dada. Both being first generation lawyers, our progress involved substantial struggle. If we would not receive even an adjournment brief, we would sit on the chairs of this room near the door and wonder what we would do if we don't get briefs. Both of us decided that we would give 3 years to this profession, after which I would give tuitions to school students, and Justice Gupte dejectedly thought that he would take up some job. However, as we all know, hard work has its ample rewards. And from the year 1986-87, we both started filing our income tax returns. And after that, there was no looking back. I was appointed as a judge of this court in 2008, and I soon realized that though the remuneration I received as a judge was in no way comparable to my earnings as a counsel, the job satisfaction was incomparable to all my 23 years as a practicing lawyer. I soon realized that being a judge required one to cultivate the practice of wiping one's mind clean of any and all prejudices that we may have harbored in our mind against our opponents, with whom we may had some misunderstanding, and as a result of which we may have not spoken to them for years. However, once that person appears before you, the thought of that person having been unfair to you as an opponent or having stolen an unfair match over you in a matter does not even cross your mind. I have completed almost 14 years as a judge, and I have experienced a deep sense of peace and contentment by deciding matters true to my oath, that is without fear or favor. To all the young and budding advocates present today, I would like to say, setting goal careers and defining success is something you have to do for yourself. And whatever that may be, it must be pursued relentlessly with single-minded determination, grit, and abundance of hard work. Though in today's day and age, technology has given mankind many shortcuts, it still hasn't and never will provide any shortcuts to success if one wants to achieve it through honesty, integrity, and on the strength of one's own intelligence and good mind. This profession particularly calls for burning the proverbial midnight oil, as often not only the fortunes of the litigants depends on the preparation and hard work of his advocate, but at times, and in criminal law and practice in particular, even his life and liberty hang in a balance on the efforts and hard work of his council. One may often attempt to escape the blame of defeat, especially where it is on account of not doing one's best, by putting it on the door of the judge, not being with you, or the case being bad, or the dice being loaded against you from the beginning. But deep in your conscience, your own lack of efforts will indeed be the real defeat. It is not at all possible, and neither it is expected, that an advocate shall meet with success throughout his career. But in this I have always been guided by one oversimplified principle, and that is, do your best and leave the rest. The best being till you can honestly tell yourself, I can do no more or better. I have in my long career at the bar and bench seen many young and some experienced advocates aspire to be judges. To them I say, may your aspirations be answered, provided you do so, not just to acquire stature and distinction that comes with the office, but with a single-minded object to serve the community of the litigants with a fair sense of justice, unadulterated by prejudice, uninfluenced by pressure from any quarters, and guided only by the law, your desire to do right and help those who may be unable to access legal help due to financial or other constraints. Before I take your leave, I would like to thank all the seniors at the bar whom I had the privilege to assist in my formative years, and thereafter who have taught me not just the nuances of law, but also invaluable lessons of integrity and respect for a differing point of view. All the senior and the advocates, irrespective of their standing at the bar, who have eased my burden as a judge with their able assistance, be it by providing comprehensive written arguments, case law, research, or just by being patient when I have been unable to accommodate their matters by granting circulation, or have had to adjourn them for want of time, or have taken time myself to deliver the judgments or upload their orders. To end with the words of Aristotle, at his best, man is the noblest of all animals. Separated from law and justice, he is the worst. Thank you.
Thank you, my lord. May I request our member, Mr. Chandrakant Chavan, to present his lordship with a memento as a token of our affection. May I now request Dr. Birendra Saraf, our Vice President, to present vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir, for your very inspiring words. The incidents which you narrated from your journey in a very light-hearted manner are in fact instances which will inspire all our younger generation, particularly those who come without any foundation in law, without any background in law, that it is ultimately hard work and dedication which is necessary for success in the legal profession. And since I've got possession of the mic in the guise of a vote of thanks, I'll take the liberty of expressing a few sentiments. Sir, your departure from this court as a judge will leave a vacuum which can never be filled in. There will just be not another Justice Kathawala in this court. During your tenure, sir, you inspired lawyers to not treat the legal profession as a mere means of earning a livelihood or attaining prosperity, but to make positive contribution to the purpose for which this institution exists, the dispensation of justice. Like Arjun in the Mahabharata saw only the eye of the bird, your focus was always on the cause of justice, to identify the wrongdoer and to set it right. And nothing, just nothing could come in the way of your delivering justice to the person you felt was wronged. Not the limitations of procedures, not the entanglement of bureaucratic delays, not the fear of anyone, nor the fear of criticism. No restraint of court timings and working days, and no restraint even of the call of nature. I had the privilege of appearing in the second last matter on that night where Justice Kathawala sat till 3 a.m. And it was almost 2:45, and Mr. Mustafa Doctor was opposing me. But he was in no sense of hurry. He heard us patiently and he passed an order. But what is not known is that the next morning I had another matter before him at 11 o'clock in his chamber. First of all, when I went the previous night, I had to take some effort to convince my disbelieving family that I've actually returned from court. But the next morning, I was back in his chambers at 11 o'clock, but he looked as fresh as ever. And he next morning, again at 11 o'clock, heard a matter at length. And talking of not being afraid of anyone or not being fearsome of criticism, I remember one particular matter where the volatile litigants went about making a whole lot of allegations. And I was really upset. And the matter was in the chamber. What Justice Kathawala told me, I'll always remember, that to do good, you should have a hide of a rhino. Nothing should affect you. You should not be afraid of criticism, because in your path to do good, there will always be people who will say nasty things, who will criticize. And that is how he could deliver the kind of justice that he could. Sir, in doing what you did, you strengthened the faith of a litigant in this august institution and put the fear of law in the minds of the wrongdoers. It was, sir, an absolute privilege and honor that we could sometimes be a participant in this endeavor of yours. Sir, as you leave this building tomorrow, you will not leave alone. Accompanying you will be, apart from my immeasurable affection and infinite respect, the blessings of the thousands of litigants to whom you delivered justice, of all those people rendered homeless whom you got home, of all those families whom you united by bringing about a settlement, of all those people who were deprived of their legitimate dues, and you ensured that they got what was due to them. And of course, the blessings of the Almighty God who'd cause you served as a judge of this court. I personally and each one of us will miss you in this court. We wish you every success and good health in the next innings. I usually thank all of you for attending an event, but I'll not do this today because I know each one of you is here today to not just share my sentiments, but express much more to Justice Kathawala. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Saraf. This concludes our ceremony for today. Could you please join us for tea and snacks, please? May I request Justice Kathawala to please come in the midst.